Hey Ken, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
Good. Do you have an update on Ryan McLeod? Do you expect him on the ice for day one of camp?
He took physicals today, talked to his agent yesterday. We're going to talk again this afternoon. So I'm hopeful that we're going to find a solution. I'm hoping he's going to be on the ice tomorrow. So his agent Joe Resnick, we talked yesterday. We're going to talk here this afternoon. I talked briefly with Ryan this morning. So hopefully he's on the ice tomorrow, and we're going to find a solution on the contract.
Ken, you had a... Are we going? There we go. You had a couple guys get nicked up during the course of the rookie tournament. We also had a situation with Cuckoo last year where he left for personal reasons. Can you just update us? Is anything going on with... are there any guys not expected to be on the ice due to injury or other scenarios?
Cody Ceci strained his hamstring last week skating, so he will be kept off the ice for the first 3 days of training camp, and then we'll see where he's at on, I don't even know what day today is, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so probably start skating on Sunday. Slater Kukuk, I talked to Rich Winter yesterday. He emailed me, he asked me to read this on behalf of Slater. Slater will be away from the team while he continues to work on his mental health. He will be working with the singular goal of returning to the Oilers in the best mindset and with the tools he will need to have a successful return. And obviously, from my perspective, mental health is a priority for my organization, and we fully support Slater in his recovery process. And then, other than Slater and Cody Ceci, I expect to have everybody. We've talked about the Ryan McLeod contract situation. I think everybody else will be on the ice tomorrow. Not Carter Savoy. No, he's going to be off a little bit. We're just waiting for results. Yes, yeah. Mike had his physical yesterday, failed, and I think he's going back home to Kelowna today. So, but he was in town yesterday and had his physical.
Everyone, I think, is obviously talking about the cap implications and possibly 20. Your preference, I guess, to make a trade before the start of the season.
The priority is to have the best team that we can. So certainly cap flexibility and depth over 82 games in 6 months is important. Obviously the way the system, if we're down low in numbers and we got to play, we get below 6D or 12 forwards, we're going to have to play a man down for a game, and then we can fill with players making under $1 million. So I want to get into training camp. I want to start to watch preseason games here starting on Sunday, and then we're going to make those decisions. I don't really have that answer for you because I want to see what we look like. I want to see what the players look like. I want to watch preseason games. I want to see where some of the young players are at. I want to see where some of the players that we've had last year, how they look, and then obviously going into the last week, I'm going to have to start to make some decisions on the fly.
Ken, you guys made, right here in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
You guys made the decision to bring Jake Virtanen in on a PTO. What went into that decision? Why ultimately did you decide to extend the invite?
Well, first off, I guess the most important thing was he went, he's in the legal system, and he went to a court of law, and a jury found him not guilty. I met with Jake one-on-one twice, once in early August, once in late August, early September. He was in Kelowna, I was in Vernon. So I made a decision to offer him a pro tryout, and I think over the next, I think he told this to Daniel yesterday, over the next 2 weeks, first off, I'm going to evaluate whether that he's from a hockey perspective, that he's somebody that we would have interest in signing to a contract. And then number two, if we do decide that to go in that direction, then I have to weigh the the other part of obviously I'm not even sure what the word is, what he did, and do I want to go in that direction? So basically, I think, number one is to give him a pro tryout. He's 25 years of age. don't want to say made, there was a situation there that wasn't a good situation. He was found not guilty. So I decided to offer him a pro tryout, and we'll decide here over the next 2 or 3 weeks if we'll offer him a contract or not.
In inviting him to camp, and I'm not sure how much you guys monitor this, but it creates a conversation, and it certainly did when it was announced. Were you expecting that? And was figuring out the I'll use the word moral side because you said that in the article the other day. Was figuring that out ahead of time something that you guys had thought about, or you're okay sort of waiting on that side of things to see if it's going to play out on the hockey front?
I think, the biggest thing for me, I guess, is to have faith in the legal system. If we lose faith in the legal system, I don't think that's a good thing. So, if it had never gone before the courts, he wouldn't be here. I wouldn't go there. But he went before the legal system. Judge and jury heard the case. Obviously they would hear both sides, and ultimately made a decision that he was found not guilty. So I guess I'm trusting the legal system in the decision to offer a pro tryout. Now, so the legal system has, in my mind, guided me to offer him a pro tryout. Now, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, or I think we have 20 days till the season opens, so let's call it 2 weeks. Over the next 2 weeks, we will evaluate him. I'll evaluate him. I'll talk to my coaches. If he's not, from a hockey standpoint, if he's not good enough to us to want to offer him a contract, then obviously we'll release him. If we think over the next 2 weeks that he's somebody that can make us better, deeper, he's an NHL player, then I'm going to have to weigh what you're talking about much more depth. So I guess this is one step along the way, and the next step is, do I want to sign him to a contract? And that's twofold. One is from a hockey standpoint, one is going to be to weigh this.
I assume you and Jay will decide on the hockey standpoint.
Yeah.
When the moral question comes up, will that involve your leadership group? Will that involve the guys in your dressing room helping you make that decision?
Yeah, I would talk to lots of people. Beside the leadership group, I would talk to lots of people. I mean, there's obviously, this is a NHL team. It's a brand. I would talk to the leadership group, and I talk to other people around. I talk to Jay. I talk to other people around our organization.
And what have you found with Jake Virtanen himself? How's he?
What have I thought about Jake?
Yeah. How does he?
As far as a person, or
yeah. Now that you've got him here, you've met him. He's here. He's skating and stuff. What kind of person are you finding here?
Well, I mean, I'm just getting. I mean, I spent two times with him for probably, let's say, 90 minutes. So I've been with him 3 hours of my life, of his life. I think he's. I think he's a nice young guy. I think he's, feels terrible about what happened. Obviously he's gone through a lot, and I'm sure lots of people have gone through a lot. It's not only him. There's people from both sides that have gone through a lot. So, like I said, I felt that I would give him an opportunity on a tryout, and over the next 2 weeks decide if I want to take it further.
Hey, Ken.
Yep.
Jason Demers is also in on a PTO. I don't think he played a ton last year. What are your expectations of him in camp?
This one I really relied on Woody. Jay obviously has had a relationship with him from his San Jose days. We knew that, last week when he reached out, we knew that Cody Ceci would probably be out for the first little bit of training camp. He's a veteran guy. He's a veteran defenseman. You never know. You give somebody an opportunity, and they can surprise you and make you a little bit better. And I think it's also, I guess it's an opportunity for Jason, number one, to try to come in and earn a contract. But it's also an opportunity for him to be at an NHL camp And we're going to play him some preseason games, and if he can't impress us, maybe he can impress somebody else. That's I guess the relationship between Woody and Jason Demers. And I think from our standpoint, nothing to lose. You bring him in a pro tryout. Maybe he can make us a little bit better. And we're trying to win. We're trying to be the best team that we can. At the very least, he'll play preseason games, and he'll be a veteran guy, and he'll play probably with some of our kids in preseason, and he'll be a good, kind of veteran D-man for our young defenseman to play with in preseason games. So there's really nothing to lose.
And what did you think of Dylan Holloway's play at the Young Stars tournament, and does that change any perception you have of him or what you hope to see?
I thought he played very well. So now it's you have to keep at it. So now we're going from I would say to you that we met Dylan yesterday, Woody and I and Keith Gretzky and Tyler Wright, just to kind of give him some feedback on what we thought and felt on the Penticton tournament, his play, and also the expectations of what he's up against as we head into this week. And I think that last year he was playing at a high level in the American League. I'd gone down and watched him. We were going to call him up, and the game that I was at, he got injured. He never really came back for the rest of the regular season. So good to see him played real well in Penticton, but obviously we're going into preseason games, and now the caliber goes up another level. The first week, you've probably got half American League players, half NHL players. In the second week, the last 2-3 games, you have mostly NHL rosters. So we'll see. I'd like to watch young players to see as you go along, as the competition gets higher and higher. Can they go with the competition? So we'll do that with Dylan.
Ken, have you had any discussions this year with Jesse Puljujarvi just about his role, where he may fit on this team, his comfort level with what his role might be? Has there been any sort of steps taken since last season ended and entering into this year, just discussing where he may fit and his feelings on that?
I have not had those conversations personally, one-on-one with Jesse. Obviously, the season ended and he went home. I just actually saw him 2 days ago for the first time, and he's been in and out. Our paths haven't crossed. I think Jay's talked to him. He's got to come in, and he's in a competition for. That was the message that Jay and I told the players today. Not individually but collectively. We're expecting a competitive camp. We've made moves here in the off season and the growth of young players over the last year or two, so that we're going to have a competition. Jesse's in that competition. I think last year at the start, he got off to a great start. I think the first 10, 15 games, 20 games, and then he kind of hit the wall. And then I think he lost his confidence. Then we had a coaching change, and his role changed. So I'll have those conversations with him at some point in time here in the next week or 10 days. But he's in a competition for ice time and for line combinations. Ultimately that's up to the coach. I'm not telling the coach where to play. I hire the coach, and the coach with his assistants have to decide where people play. I give my input as we go along, but I hired the coach, and the coach makes those final decisions.
And I'll put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
The last few years, there's a trade demand there's not. It's come and gone a little bit. Has anything changed from previously? Where does Jesse stand as far as his willingness to be here and be an Oiler and take whatever role is there for him?
I think he was, I had the one-on-one with him at the end of the year, and I talked 3-4 times to his agent. I think he was frustrated with the way the year ended. I think he was frustrated, probably a little bit personally, that he wasn't able to probably produce a little bit more offense. I think he got frustrated that his role changed. I mean, he was playing more minutes, I think, early on. But when you're playing good, you play more. And when you're not, when you get those minutes and you don't produce, then the coaches make changes. So. That's the process of playing in the National Hockey League. I think when I came here, obviously year one, he stayed back in Finland, and I don't know what transpired before I got here, but I do know that he he was not happy and requested a trade. And ultimately, we went through, and he came back, and I think that he went like young players. He went through the process, and he worked his way up the ladder. This is 2 years ago, and he started. He was on the top 6, playing 15 to 18 minutes a night, and then he did that again last year for a quarter of the year, and then like I said, the last half of the year his role greatly reduced. In the playoffs, I maybe was playing 10 minutes a night. We're trying to win. The coach is trying to win. So fresh start, fresh opportunity. And I mean that was the message today. There's a competition out there, and he's got to go out here over the next 2 weeks and 8 preseason games, and he's got to try to get a bigger piece of the pie. I think Ryan. I was in a a program that made the playoffs for 25 years in a row with Detroit. We won 4 Stanley Cups and I think 6 President's Trophies. Or it's competitive. Like you can't be just handing out jobs and you get to go on the power play because you're a high pick or because we've talked about Dylan Holloway, because you played good in the American Hockey League. We want to be a good team. It's competition. And it's internal competition, and you got to hang on to your job. And the way we're going to get better and deeper is if people are pushing and they got to hang on to their jobs. And if you don't hang on to your job, you're a piece of the pie, and you got to go back out. You got to do something. You got to figure out. You got to maybe meet with the coaches, and you got to do whatever you got to do on the ice, off the ice, in the gym. You got to try to figure out a way to get a bigger piece of the pie back, to get more responsibility. I think that's how we're going to ultimately push this team, or continue to push this team. I think we're growing. I believe we're coming. I believe we're getting better. But that's the only way we're going to do it. So, whether it's Jesse Puljujarvi or Dylan Holloway, we can bring up Philip Broberg. You and I can bring up 10 or 12 names, and until you are established and you do it day after day, game after game after game after game after game, that's how you hang on to your ice time, your role on the team. And Jesse's no different than, I don't look at him any different than any of these other guys. That's how we're gonna push this team to greater heights.
Ken, what are you looking for from Virtanen to get you into those conversations about whether to keep him or not? What do you see his role being here? How do you see him fitting in?
That's a good question. I think I guess the first thing I told him is he's not in line for a top 6 job here. Like there's Connor and Leon and Evander and Yamo and Hyman and Ryan Nugent Hopkins and Jesse was up there last year, and so we're looking. He's got to be in the bottom 6. What do bottom 6 guys do? Bottom 6 guys, in my opinion, certainly a third line's got to chip in with some offense. Probably your fourth. Your bottom 6 got to kill penalties. They got to be good defensively. They got to pitch in with some secondary scoring. They maybe got to provide some physicality. There's different things that you look for when you build a team. So can he? If he comes in here and he can't check and he doesn't provide any physicality and he doesn't score, but if he comes in and he can provide 1 or 2 of those dimensions, whether it's physicality, can he check? Certainly as a junior, he was a scorer. But he had that opportunity. When you get drafted, you get a period of time. You get your 3, 4, 5 years. You got to, just what I said to Ryan here, you got to grab a piece of the pie. You got to grab that responsibility. If it passes you by, somebody else comes and it's their time. And now you're now just sort of another player that's got to try to come and provide and bring a dimension, bring something to the team that makes it better. So I brought him in, to kind of watch him play and see where his game at. I really haven't seen him probably play, live other than a couple of times a year when he was in Vancouver. So he's got a short window. When you come in a pro tryout and you don't have a contract, you got a short window to try to impress.
Ken, you,
Further on McLeod, you say you're going to talk to him and his agent. Not going to work out a deal today, or is it just an understanding to get him in without a contract? And what's his mental state being, having to wait this long?
Well, I think his mental state is good because I mean he's been here for 2-3 weeks now. So I mean he's come in. He's obviously been patient. I would say to you that early on in the negotiation, and I'm going to call early on, let's say July, August. You got to get by free agency, and then you start to focus in on the then you got the art player. We had to. Then it was Yamamoto and Jesse. So let's say since early August, we've kind of got at it. Ideally, I think he and we would like to do a 2 or 3 year contract. We both waited to see if I did anything in terms of making a trade to relieve some caps, create some cap space. That hasn't happened. Obviously, you can always go on a 1 year deal. So I think we're to the point now. We're probably looking at a 1 year deal, and I kind of got to walk him. My negotiating style, I guess, through the years has been to try to educate the player and the agent as to where I see that player fitting in. And not only we, the Edmonton Oilers, but I think many teams have been challenged by the cap going up $1 million a year. Last year, it's been in effect almost flat. But so, Yamamoto's, I kind of did that last year with Yamo. I mean, I gave him a little bit more than his QO because he'd been a point-a-game player the year before for half a season. So I'm just trying to walk him through and where he fits in. I like him a lot. I think he's a top 9 forward. I thought he played really good. His game grew the last half the year, and I see him growing into kind of an important player for us on the bottom 6. But ultimately, we're at where we're at with the cap, and I think we're kind of going through that process right now with Ryan and the agent.
Hey, Ken, just going back to Holloway, do you see him as like kind of the wild card piece that whether or not he makes the team will determine, maybe some other moves that you make?
Yes. I guess here's where I'm going to see Dylan. I think Dylan can be a really good player for this franchise, for this team. And maybe not, I'm not sure if he's a top 6 or not. That they got to grow, and you got to grow into that. But certainly he was he led the Tier 2 league in scoring here. He then goes to college, and was he 5th in the nation in scoring as a 19-year-old playing college hockey? It's hard to do. At Wisconsin, it's easier to be 5th in the nation when you're 22. It's hard to be 5th in the nation when you're 19. Then he turns pro, and he's just coming off an injury. I think it was about a half a point a game. But as he started to get healthy, he started to become a really good player at the American League level. And really, he's a late birthday, so I think he was a 19-year-old player. So you just start to follow this. You start to follow this. So I don't want him playing 7 minutes on the 4th line. I don't think that's going to do any good for whether it's Dylan or any young player, Borgo or any young player to play. Are they better off at 19? He'll have turned 20 now. Is he better off at 20 to play 20 minutes at the American League level, or is he better off to play 7-8 minutes at the NHL level? And those 7 minutes they play safe. They don't want to make any mistakes. They want to stay in the lineup. I don't want them to play safe. I don't want young players to play safe. I want young players to do things with the puck and to try score goals. If you've shown that ability earlier in your, and Dylan showed that, when he played Tier 2 in the Alberta League, and when he played in college, and he's on the power play in the American League. I talked to Colin Chalk and Keith Gretzky last year, after he started to get back, and I said he did not kill penalties at the college level. Let's get them killing penalties. If you come up to the NHL and you're not on the power play, and I don't know when anyone's going to get on the power play right here when you look at the players that we've got and the age that they're at. And if you don't kill penalties, you don't play in the power play, you start to work your way down to 8 and 9 minutes. So we've introduced penalty killing to him. He did a good job in the penalty kill. He penalty killed last week in the Penticton tournament. So we're trying to grow Dylan because we think he's going to be a really important player to this organization and to this team. And is it going to be on October the 12th when we play against Vancouver, or is it going to be 20 games down or 40 games down? I don't know. I got to watch games just like you got to watch games, and I got to talk to my people. And then I want to ask the coach on October the 10th, tell me what you're thinking about the lineup. And is Dylan in the lineup? Is Borgo in the lineup? Is Broberg in the lineup? Is Niemelainen, Samorukov, Desharnais, are they going to be in the lineup? And if they're not in the lineup, then I start to manage. Then I start to look at the future, and I start to look at the rules. Well, Samarukov's got to be a waiver player. These guys aren't waiver players, and I start to take all this information in when I start to work my way towards a decision. But priority number one for me always has been for young players is to make sure that they play, that they're important, because once you get to the NHL, this is not a development league. This is a results league. And if players start to play nervous or they don't want to make a mistake, they're trying to stay in the lineup, it's hard to grow. So I'm going to watch I'm excited to see these next 8 preseason games, just like I'm sure lots of fans are, to see what some of these young players, where they're at.
Coming off a successful season last year, the expectations this year are higher than they have been in a long time. Do you feel like this group is ready to deal with the expectations and external pressure that comes with this?
What I liked, what I've watched, I look back to last year. We were 21-5. We were first overall, and we went into a 2-11-2. We spiraled down to a 15-game run, and obviously shortly thereafter, I made a coaching change. But I liked that down the stretch we had to play our way in. I think when Jay took over, we were 6 or 7 points out. So we went through it today. The last 46 games, we had the 3rd best record in the National Hockey League. So we played our way in. We didn't back. We had to catch teams, and we had to reel teams in. I thought that, going into Game 6 in LA when you lose Darnell Nurse for the suspension, I thought our guys dug in and found a way to win a massive road win to get the game back to Game 7, and obviously a tight Game 7. We had a shutout in Game 7. So I think our team over the last year and a half, I think we learned a lot from the Chicago play-in series. When we played a veteran team, I thought we played really good. We got off to a slow start in the bubble. We had to play or get going and get up. And I think we were 5-6 after 11. We played our way in. I thought we played a real good series against Winnipeg. We didn't win a game, but we were starting to play tighter. The type of hockey that I believe you got to play as a team to have success. And I thought we took another step last year, and I thought our team showed a lot of character, a lot of heart, a lot of determination, a lot of pride. When you're in adversity, that's when you grow. And I thought that we, when we started to go 2-11-2, and things started to reel, and we stuck with it. We found a way to kind of turn that around and played, like I said, the 3rd best record in the National Hockey League the last 46 games to play our way in. This thing could have spiraled right out of control, and it didn't, because of the determination in that room, and the pride, and the belief in one another, and the character, and I think also that the age. We're not a young team. We've got more veteran players, and our nucleus is in their prime. So. Obviously coming off a Final Four, we've got high hopes and high expectations. I told those guys there's 32 teams having meetings today that got high hopes and high expectations. Last year's history. Last year means that's something we can talk about, but it's history. It means nothing. We start on October the 12th, and 32 teams start with 0 points. We're one of them. You got to play your way back into the playoffs, and teams are going to be ready for us. They saw us play in the Final Four. They're going to be ready for us. There's teams that missed the playoffs in the West that want to play their way back in. So I'm expecting it's going to be a real dogfight in the Western Conference to make the playoffs. I'm big on getting off to good starts. We want to get off to a good start. But last year's history. So to me, it might get the fan base excited and people, but you got to do it all over again. The good programs and the good teams do it year after year after year after year after year, finding a way to make the playoffs and finding a way to grow their team. And that's what, as the manager, that's what I'm trying to oversee. And hopefully we're growing that.
Ken, do you see Broberg being in the same shoes as Bouchard was in last year? Prove to us that you can be a top 6 guy, and then we'll move you up the lineup.
Yeah, Jim. Back to my. As a manager, I want to make it hard. I think for these young players, you got to come in and take people's. It's pro hockey. Like, we're in the results business, and just to hand out jobs because they're the 8th pick or the 10th pick, or they scored a bunch of points at some high school or college or junior program or Europe. It's the National Hockey League, so we're going to give them an opportunity. I think as we drafted him, I want to make it hard, but last year he became the #1 defenseman in the American Hockey League for a good team in the American Hockey League. And he didn't become the #1 defenseman because I told Jay Woodcroft to play him. He became the #1 defenseman because Jay Woodcroft wanted to win as a coach at the American League level. Played him on the power play, played him on the penalty killing, played him the most minutes of any defenseman on that team. I didn't tell him to do that. You got to go into pro hockey, and as a young player, you got to take somebody's job. So he's done that at the American League level. He got called up. He's got some experience in the NHL. I think he played 10, 12 NHL games. Sat on the bench there for one game in LA in a playoff game. I think he played 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, but he sort of kind of saw it at that level. Now he's put on 12 pounds. It's probably his first summer to really train. Previous summers he was on World Junior camps and U18 camps and U17 camps, so it's his first summer to really train. I think he feels good about himself based upon what he did in the American League last year, and I think he feels good about himself for the offseason he's had. So, I'm looking, I signed Ryan Murray to come in here. He's a veteran guy. We've got six vets coming into camp, but Ryan Murray's got to make the team. And if the kids are better, we're going with the kids. And if the kids aren't better, we're going to go with the vets.
And what do you want to see more of from Warren Foegele? Last year, he had some stretches where he was very good, and then stretches where he didn't provide much offense, and then he was a healthy scratch every now and then.
What I like about Warren Foegele is I like that he gets in on the forecheck. You got to, get in the forecheck, force the other team into mistakes. He goes to the blue paint. I thought that, we want to see the best Warren. You said there's been stretches. I think the consistency, I thought the playoffs there, and was it the Colorado game? That line was really good. I think he was with him and Ryan McLeod. I don't remember who was on the line, but they played really good for us. So I think that probably as all players, he can play left or right wing. I think he's going to get some looks here on right wing because Zach Hyman can play left or right. So I think ideally it's the times we think Zach's most comfortable on left. So folks played right wing in Carolina, so I think he's going to get some looks on right wing here in preseason. And I think that Jay is just looking for some chemistry, whether for all these players. So anxious to watch.
Can you make the point that there may not be a spot anytime soon for someone to squeak into a power play? would that also extend to the top six? Because as you rightfully point out, you've got a young core that's produced in those roles. But at the same time, you've also talked about some players who theoretically would project to be top six guys. Do you see a path as soon as this year for that top six, any of the spots, to be challenged?
This year?
Yes.
Well, I don't. I mean, when you look at the age of the players and what they accomplished last year, I mean, now you get 20 games in and somebody's struggling and somebody else is, will flip, right? You move up. But I mean, as we sit here today, when I look at the resumes of the players and I look at the age of the players, does Jay want to stretch it out and turn, some of the top six, and does he want to create a nine? That's up to the coach. I mean, we'll sit in there in the meetings and I'm with the coach, and but ultimately Jay is tasked with the responsibility to try to get the most out of the players.
And you pointed out Broberg had put on 12 pounds. In your experience, when a young player starts morphing into that man strength, is there potentially an adjustment he has to make on the ice to deal with that new body? And can there be some patches there where they're learning to deal with that new body?
My worry is when players put on that much, can they still skate? And I watched him last week. I mean, that's one of his gifts. He can skate. So I'd like to think that the strength is going to give him confidence, that he's going to go into one-on-one, battles in the corner, and he's going to feel a little bit strong. As he goes along, he'll feel a little bit, for young players, confidence is such a big part of it. So I'm hoping it's going to give him a little more confidence that, again, they put on too much weight, and I'd look, can they skate? Well, I watched him last week in Penticton. He can skate. I don't think it's affected his skating. So now I'm hoping it's going to give him a little more confidence. Also, the strength when you go in the corners and the battles and the boxing out and the one-on-one battles. Because I think I've said this before. When I look at for young defensemen, it's can you defend? You come into this league and you do one of two things: you either defend or you produce offense. You got to do one of the two, and if you don't do either, then that's the 8-minute guy, right? So, I don't see Philip coming in and running the power play. Barry's here. I think Bush would like to get some power play time. Darnell Nurse has played on a little bit. He's not running the power play. So for a young defenseman, you got to come in. You got to be safe. Can you penalty kill? You got to figure out a way to kind of grab a little piece of the, and then as you start to establish yourself as an NHL player, then some of the things that you've done as a 17, 18, and 19-year-old, I watched him be the leading scorer or top defenseman in the U18 tournament in Sweden, and run the power play in the American League. And maybe he doesn't run the power play, but maybe you run the second power play. But that's down the road. That's you gotta learn. You gotta grab a jersey every night. And then you got to earn the coach's confidence, and you you go through a process. And that process sometimes takes a season, sometimes it takes two or three seasons. But he's a young defenseman that everybody in there, Woody and Dave Manson had him in Bakersfield, and Colin Chalk had him. I mean, everybody thinks very, very highly of him and his potential and the impact that he can have on this team. But obviously, I signed Kulak. We got Darnell Nurse. You got the beauty. Also, he can play left or right. That gives him he can try to move up the ladder on the left. He can also move up the ladder on the right. But I think it's a process. We're trying to win. We're trying to be the best team. I say win. We're trying to be the best team that we can. I understand the responsibility of the manager. Where this core group is in their age, in their prime. So I'm not putting players on the team because I think they're going to be good 3 years from now. You got to pitch in and have some contribution to us winning competing on October the 12th. And if you don't do it, then October the 14th or 15th, whatever the next game is, the coach is going to make a change. The message is we're trying to be the best that we can be.
Ken, can I ask you one question about Jay's propensity to play 11 forwards and 7 defensemen?
Yes.
will that have a bearing on your roster, before the season, apart from the cap issues? He likes to play 11 forwards, so why would you perhaps keep 13 forwards on your roster then if he's only going to play 11 of them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good. I think Jay's going to be available to you tomorrow. Save that one for Jay. But yeah, I mean, as we go down to near the end, if he tells me he wants to play 11 and 7, I think he does want to play 12 and 6 quite a bit, and I think he'll kind of go back and forth. So I think 12 and 6 is also a real legitimate option. I don't think he wants to go 11 and 7 every night, but you can ask him tomorrow. Are you guys all good? Thank you.